have people who are afraid to go to the hospital because our hospitals have occupying paramilitary forces.
Let me be very blunt, and I'm going to just say it. The greatest threat to the homeland right now is called the Department of Homeland Security.
Unidentified masked men are kidnapping people off the streets based solely on their accent or their appearance.
Democrats doubling down on their anti-ICE rhetoric as a partial government shutdown hits day 4. Many House Democrats are demanding a dramatic overhaul to DHS for any funding bill to move forward. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt is with us now for our private briefing. And Karoline, we bid good Tuesday afternoon to you. I want to get into all of the machinations on Capitol Hill in just a second, but we've got some breaking news. And the breaking news is that CENTCOM confirms that a U.S. F-35 fighter jet shot down an Iranian Shahed drone that was making an aggressive approach toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. This on the same day that a couple of Iranian gunboats were threatening a U.S.-flagged tanker in the Gulf of the Persian Gulf, threatening to board it. So what is going on, to the best of your knowledge, and what is the president going to do about what appear to be some threatening moves being made by Iran, even as Steve Witkoff prepares to meet with the foreign minister, Araghchi, either in Oman or Turkey on Friday?
Well, sure, John, and thank you for having me today. I did speak with folks over at the Pentagon this morning who said that CENTCOM acted both appropriately and necessarily to protect our U.S. personnel and equipment in the region. So CENTCOM did make the decision to shoot down that Iranian drone. It was unmanned. It was acting aggressively towards our USS Lincoln, which we know that aircraft carrier is in the region at the direction of President Trump. As for the president, he remains committed to always pursuing diplomacy first. But in order for diplomacy to work, of course, it takes two to tango. You need a willing partner to engage. And so that's something the president and Special Envoy Witkoff are exploring and discussing right now. Special Envoy Witkoff is set to have conversations with the Iranians later this week. Those are still scheduled as of right now. But of course, the president has always a range of options on the table, and that includes the use of military force. The Iranians know that better than anyone. Just look no further than the highly successful Operation Midnight Hammer, which took not just Iran, but the entire world by surprise and completely obliterated their nuclear capabilities earlier last year.
Karoline, we look forward to any follow-up on that. Meanwhile, you heard as we were leading into you this continued anti-ICE rhetoric that is coming from Democrats on the Hill. Democrats claiming that DHS is the greatest threat to American security. You heard from one of them just a moment ago. This is the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, on the Senate floor, Karoline, on Speaker Johnson being pro-secret police. We'll get your reaction. Watch.
Every citizen knows when they meet a police officer or sheriff, their ID is clear on them. That's always been the accountability that we've had for decades and decades. And Noam thinks, and some people think, like Speaker Johnson thinks, we shouldn't do it. Why is Johnson pro-secret police? It's absurd for the Speaker and others like him to argue that masked ICE agents should get special treatment.
Karoline, what's the White House response to that?
I think it's incredibly irresponsible for elected Democrats to refer to ICE agents and Border Patrol agents who have their jobs, by the way, because of the laws that were enacted and passed by the United States Congress. These are legitimate law enforcement organizations that rest within the Department of Homeland Security that have been enforcing our nation's border and our nation's immigration laws for years. I didn't hear Chuck Schumer or Democrats speaking that way of ICE agents under President Barack Obama, who deported hundreds of thousands of criminal illegal aliens from our country. That's all President Trump, Secretary Noam, and this entire administration are seeking to do. Targeted law enforcement operations of illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws, especially those who have committed heinous acts of violence against the American people. And it is a mandate that the president was elected upon to secure our homeland and to carry carry out these deportations. And it's something he will never waver in his commitment in, because why? A country without borders, a country without laws will cease to be a country at all. Now, there can be policy discussions and debates about how those tactics are enforced. And I know Congress will be having those discussions in the coming days. But as far as the underlying principle of enforcing our nation's laws and protecting our border, that is something this president will never waver on, because he knows it's what the American people elected him to do.
Barack Obama actually deported millions of illegal aliens.
Right.
I was covering that back in 2013,
Yes,
2014. And I do not remember, to the best of my knowledge, protests erupting across America on the streets denouncing what he was doing. So the funding bill is making its way through Congress. A number of Republican members of the House insisting that the SAVE Act, which is the Voter Identification Act, be attached to the funding bill. But the president nixed that idea. In a Truth Social post, he said in part, quote, "We need to get the government open, and I hope all Republicans and Democrats will join me in supporting this bill and send it to my desk without delay. There can be no changes at this time." A number of Republicans were not happy about that. The president convinced them otherwise. But why didn't the president want that in this funding bill?
The president wants the government to be open, John. He wants federal workers to be paid. He wants our economy to continue to move in the robust way that it is because of his pro-growth economic policies. And a shutdown will only hurt our economy, ultimately will only hurt the American people. We saw that in the last shutdown fight. Nobody wins, everybody loses. The president wants our country to win. He wants the government to remain open, and that is going to happen. We have a very high degree of confidence. We're extremely optimistic. The government is going to reopen, that all Republicans are going to stick together and vote accordingly. And that bill to reopen the government will be right here at the White House, we hope in just a few short hours, to the president's desk for signature.
Karoline, could you also give us a few more details on this phone call with Prime Minister Modi of India? A trade deal has been reached, says President Trump. Both of them are saying, according to Modi, he's delighted with the announced tariff reduction on India. President Trump touting that India, stop buying Russian oil. President Trump made an announcement that he believes this could end the war in Ukraine. Can you offer our audience more details on what has been achieved there?
Sure. Well, I have the great honor and pleasure of seeing President Trump interact with leaders all around the world. When it comes to Prime Minister Modi, I know he particularly enjoys their relationship and has a deep respect for the Prime Minister and for his country of India. They had a great call. It was very productive yesterday, and they struck a deal in which India has agreed to stop purchasing Russian oil, to buy more American oil from the United States of America, and potentially from Venezuela too. As you know, the president and his national security team are now dictating the commerce of Venezuela and those oil sales. So this directly benefits the American people as well. And in addition, India has agreed to invest more in the United States because of President Trump's call to action on that phone call yesterday. Prime Minister Modi committed to $500 billion of purchases of U.S. energy, transportation, agricultural products, and the U.S. tariff on India will now be at 18%, but American exports to India will face a tariff of 0%. So this is a great deal and a huge win for American workers, businesses, and consumers alike.
You mentioned Venezuela a second ago, Venezuelan oil, which brings me to this morning's meeting between the president and Colombian President Gustavo Petro, who was really talking tough when Maduro was still in power, but has since had a change of heart, shall we say, since Maduro was popped. How did that meeting go today?
Well, the meeting is still ongoing, or at least it was when I walked out of the West Wing just moments ago. Oh, well, there you go. That's news to me. I'll go check in with the president to see how it's going. But I did speak with the president before he headed into the meeting. He had a very positive headspace. Again, President Trump always wants to pursue diplomacy first, and that's what you are seeing on display here at the White House today.
All right, Karoline, really appreciate the private briefing for our viewers with so much going on. Thank you so much for joining us here on America Reports.
Appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.